Okay. So, um, disclaimer, adult audiences only, and just feel like, might be talking a lot. Gonna start at chapter 6. Gonna give it just a few minutes before let's go over what we read last time. We just read one chapter, chapter 5, where we talked about the difference between feeling and mood. Feeling being one's ability to value, and mood being one's being overtaken or possessed by an inner feminine content. And the man is struggling with his anima or inner feminine. He is, he has a problem with being taken over by his mood and talking about overabundance of consumption at one point. I thought that was funny. But, and how wives deal with men and their moods. And it ends with Parsifal makes a correct relationship with Blanchefleur. He is devoted to her. He lies with her head to head, toe to toe, but he does not seduce, nor is he seduced by her. He is strengthened by her. He is devoted to her. He serves her. He is close to her. There is no prohibition against a closeness to one's interior feminine. The closer, the better, but there must be this fine differentiation. No seduction, or the grail is lost. Parsifal succeeds in this. So that's really interesting. It's like we need to be in touch with our feminine. It's so funny. There's these like street interviews. Hey, Addie, I'm glad you're back. Hey, Pyramid. Hey, NC Purdy. I don't know if I'm saying that correct. Hey, Dory, how are you tonight? There's these like street interviews where people will ask men, what would you do if you were a woman? What would you do if you woke up a woman or if you were a woman for a week? And 99.9% of the time it's sex related. And like I do understand, I do understand like if I woke up a man, like the thought would come to my head, oh, like I wonder about that. But like the very first thing is like it's crazy. And I don't know, that just popped into my head. So it's like it's important to be in like I believe this is a way for men not to objectify women. And they aren't their whole selves when they are porn addled, and it's not all their fault. Like when it is all their fault, but you know what I mean. This world, adult media is everywhere, and it's so hard if somebody does become like addicted to that. But of course, it's their responsibility to take care of that. I have been to Disney, Addie. I've been to Disneyland and Disney World because I actually lived in California for a little while. But yeah, I never took my kids. We could never afford to go to Disney when we lived there with kids. So we're gonna start at chapter 6. And it says, our story continues. We left Parsifal at Blanchefleur's castle after he freed her. He is still guilt-stricken over what he has done to his mother. Remember, he left quite suddenly and she died of a broken heart. It is interesting that almost every time Parsifal makes a bit of an advance, or when something important has happened, he is suddenly concerned with his mother. A boy must become strong before he can look at his mother, his parents, or his family situation with any kind of objectivity, even to write postcards home and be civil. If a boy divests himself a little of his mother complex, there is the beginning of a chance he might relate with his mother, but he must get a little strength first and become an independent man. As soon as Parsifal has gotten a little strength from Garnemond and Blanchefleur, he thinks again of his mother. But as we will see, it is basically his mother involvement that makes all the trouble. This is the greatest stumbling block that exists in a man's psychology. Almost no man will admit it, but means that he is probably totally eaten up by it. But as a man grows, he has a chance to make a better relationship with his mother complex. At every point of growth in the Grail myth, Parsifal turns around to redo his mother relationship. Okay, that's why I was wondering when they were going to get to the point where it's like the man needs to separate himself from his mother. Parsifal has traveled all day after leaving Blanchefleur. At nightfall, he has no place to stay. He is far out in the woods. He passes by somebody who says there is no habitation within 30 miles. But just at dusk, he comes across two men in a boat. One is fishing, and the other rowing. The fisherman invites him to come and stay with him for the night. He gives Parsifal directions to his house and goes on. Parsifal follows the instructions and finds himself at a moat with a drawbridge over it. He scarcely has ridden over the drawbridge when it is pulled up, actually striking the back of his horse as it the back feet of his horse as it snaps closed. It's like my dream to have a moat with a drawbridge. Parsifal finds himself in a great castle. As he goes into the courtyard, four youths come out, take his horse, take off his clothes, bathe him, and dress him in beautiful scarlet clothing. Then two youths lead him to the fisherman he has seen, who is, of course, the Fisher King. The Fisher King apologizes because he is wounded and therefore unable to rise and greet Parsifal properly. But the whole court is there, 400 knights and their ladies. There is a fireplace at the center of the great hall that faces in each of the four cardinal directions. One learns that in symbolism, when the number four appears, it signifies a presence of completeness or totality. This is the Grail Castle. If we hadn't known it any other way, we could tell by the many symbols of totality that turn up: the four youths, the 400 knights and ladies, the four faces of the fire. So the Fisher King, groaning in agony, welcomes Parsifal. There is some ceremony, and then a procession comes in. A youth carries a sword that drips blood constantly. Then a maiden comes in bearing the chalice, the Holy Grail itself. Another maiden comes bearing the paten that was used at the Last Supper. There are many more things in the procession, but these are the ones with which we are mainly concerned. A great banquet is held. The Fisher King presides from his couch. He can't even sit up. As the grill is passed about without a word, it gives each guest whatever food he silently wishes for. He has only to wish, and the grill produces the food or drink. A silver tray does likewise. Oh, wow. I'm going to read a few comments because of copyright. Hello, Jasper. How are you? Yeah, I will read a little bit here and there. Thank you, Fishing Queen. Oh, Addie, I hope you sleep well. Good night. As the evening goes on, Parsifal is dazzled by what is happening. The Fisher King's niece brings a sword and gives it to the Fisher King, who straps it onto Parsifal's waist. It becomes Parsifal's sword. Parsifal is speechless at this gift. You can imagine this country boy in a castle with all the ceremony going on, especially the magic of the Grail. Parsifal says not a word. Remember, Gornamon told him that when the true knight comes to the Grail Castle, if he is lucky enough to find it, he must ask the great question: whom does the Grail serve? But Parsifal is remembering the advice of his mother: don't ask questions, so he keeps absolutely still. He is just amazed at everything that is going on. He relapses into complete naivete and simply observes. The evening wears on. The Fisher King is carried to his litter in his litter to his own room, and all the guests and knights depart. Two youths take Parsifal to his quarters, undress him, and put him to bed. In the morning, when Parsifal wakes, there is not a soul to be seen. He knocks on several doors, but there is no response. He goes down into the courtyard. His horse is saddled and ready. He calls, empty echoes. No one is about. He gets on his horse and goes over the drawbridge. Again, the drawbridge snaps closed, striking the back feet of the horse. Then the Grail Castle disappears. There is nothing but forest. Now let's pause and see where we are. The Grail Castle is a place of the most precious feminine quality, and the Grail is the epitome of all that is feminine. It is the highest feminine symbol, the holy of holies in its feminine expression. It is that for which the knight searches all his life. It gives a man everything that he asks even before he asks it. It is perfect happiness, the ecstatic experience. Okay. Oh, thank you, Moo Times. The thing that is most touching about this part of the myth is that it is telling us that a youth can blunder into the Grail Castle sometime in his mid adolescence without earning it or even asking for it. Perhaps every boy in his adolescence spends at least one day in the Grail Castle and experiences this perfection. The first two sentences in a book I received today read: all of us at some moment have had a vision of our existence as unique, untransferable, and very precious. This transformation almost always takes place during adolescence. There it is. Usually a man has repressed this, but if he will remember back, somewhere there was a moment when he stumbled into the Grail Castle. This usually happens around 15 or 16 years of age. There is that morning or that perfect day one wakes up in the middle of the night and goes out and walks in the moonlight. It is not a love affair at this time, but is often closely associated with the first falling in love. It is a solitary experience. It may happen among others, but basically it is a solitary experience. I remember a boy who told me that he woke up one summer morning when he was 15, climbed out the window, and went out to watch the sunrise. Then he climbed in the window again, woke up, and came down to breakfast as though nothing had happened. But he had been in the Grail Castle for that couple of hours in the early dawn. Can you all think of anything like that that happened to you? Because, like, I was sitting there thinking of something much more significant. Sorry. It's very rare to hear somebody drive by, so I think I know whose truck that is. What neighbor that is. So, anyways, um, Some people are wise enough, courageous enough, or honest enough to record these events. Poets speak of such mornings early in life when they discover beauty, ecstasy, the golden world. The Grail Castle doesn't exist physically. It is an inner reality, an experience of the soul. I think it is probably best described as a level of consciousness. A boy wakes up with something new in him, a power, a perception, a strength, a vision. This is his Grail Castle. He can't describe it or hang on to it, but he will never be the same again. People often tease an adolescent out of his Grail Castle experience, but no one should ever do this. It is a holy thing for him. Nothing will ever happen to him that is more beautiful or more important or more formative for him. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about my 15-year-old has like the nicest friends, and like one of his friends, I don't want to like give everything away. Like he just has like this real specific style right now. I don't want to say what it is, but it's like and they were talking about like people at school are making fun of him. Like it's so cool that like you want to be yourself, and like you're interested in this and like you're going all in, and like don't ever lose that about yourself. Like people are just envious that they can't be their selves truly. And I think that um it is a beautiful thing to see. It's like I just think of like the ambition I see in my sons, to see them like get into things, especially involving self-improvement and like have a closer relationship to God and like be excited about these things. And uh it was just having a discussion with them like why are so many people so mean, and why do they bully so much? I'm sorry if you hear my dog snoring. That's my girl dog, Layla. But, and I was like, "Well, I don't think a lot of them have, like, relationships with God and are like, they don't have the same interests. They just, like, sit around and talk about other people, and try to, like, point out other people's flaws and, like, try to figure out people's addresses because they have no lives." Fishing queen, I remember when my school sweetheart, the one I am married to now in 12th grade, he came over at 1 in the morning and it was a beautiful night, no clouds. He made a picnic on the roof and the telescope. That is so sweet, fishing queen. Dory, I'm sorry I didn't make it clear. It's this book. It's called He Understanding Masculine Psychology. I know the words are mirrored backwards. It's by Robert A. Johnson, but it's using Jungian psychology, Carl Jung. Okay. The Grail Castle doesn't exist. I'm just going to read it again if I read this. The Grail Castle doesn't exist physically. It is an inner reality, an experience of the soul. I think it is probably best described as a level of consciousness. A boy wakes up with something new in him, a power, a perception. I did read these. I'm sorry. But I did start to cry. This is with Grail Castle. He can't describe it or hang on to it, but he will never be the same again. People often tease an adolescent out of his Grail Castle experience, but no one should ever do this. It is a holy thing for him. Nothing will ever happen to him that is more beautiful or more important or more formative for him. For when he is out of the Grail Castle, he is miserable. He can think of nothing else. Nothing else will do once he has seen the Grail Castle. Even if he represses the memory of the Grail Castle from his consciousness, the longing for it will eat away at him from the unconscious. There is an old proverb from the Middle Ages that a person has a chance at the splendor of God, at the golden world, twice in his life, once early in adolescence and again when he is 45 or 50. Parcifal will come back to the Grail Castle years later and ask the right question. This time he only blundered it into it and he can't cope with it. No boy can cope with the Grail experience when it first comes to him. He can't stand it, but he does see it. He is touched, almost fatally, by it. It sometimes destroys him. More often than not, it fires him up to a wild, compulsive kind of search. It is a motivation, conscious or unconscious, for a great deal of the rest of his life. For in the Grail Castle, he has known perfect happiness. He has known that utter, absolute contentment, and beauty, and joy that the Grail Castle can give him. Then, when he loses it all, he becomes a Grail searcher, an urgent, questing beast, fairly pawing the earth to find again the beauty he viewed so briefly. His spiritual hunger forces him to climb everything that is climbable, to try this, to try that, in a restless search for the lost Grail Castle. The Grail gives complete satisfaction and wholeness. If you have ever had that, how can you live an ordinary life? So, yeah, can you guys hear my dog snoring? I don't want to like get up and walk across the room and wake her up if I don't have to. She's a snorer. And that's one of her only faults. That and she likes to eat cat poo. I'm sorry. See, the longer I would talk in between paragraphs and I get way too off. Parsifal could not stay in the girl castle because he failed to ask the question Gornemont had told him to ask. He remained silent because he followed his mother's advice and not Gornemont's. His mother complex cost him the ability to stay in the girl castle. A man's mother complex does not allow him to stay at the girl castle the first time around. After a man is out of his mother's grip, as soon as he will ask the question in the girl castle, then he can live in it. If the girl castle experience is very strong for a boy, it nearly incapacitates him. The youths who wander around seemingly without any motive or idea where they are going are sometimes young men who have been half blinded by their Grail Castle experience. Most men find it also difficult, so painful, so incomprehensible that they immediately repress it and say, I don't remember it. But like all repressed things in the unconscious, far from having gotten rid of it, we find it's everywhere, behind every tree and every door, looking over the shoulder of every person we see. So much of the boys' Bantam rooster behavior is turning off of the Grail Castle experience. It hurts so much he can't stand it, and he tries to persuade himself he is very tough to get away from the pain. Girl hunger accounts for all kinds of things. It's terrifying to approach this hunger in ourselves. If a man is courageous enough, he will understand the hunger I am talking about. It is a hunger that has to be filled. He's got to have something. He's not sure what. It is the Saturday evening restlessness of a youth. He has to have something or he will explode. Much advertising plays upon this hunger in a man. I am not sure how conscious advertising people are about it, but they know how to play on this. You can sell a man almost anything if you indirectly call it the grail. Yeah, and, I think it's interesting because they go back and, like, they say thing about, like, people having a Holy Grail experience, and it's like, um, you know, how much of this relates to women or can relate? Of course, anything could really like, people are people, right? But, do women not feel the same about their experience from early adolescence? I guess we'll find out in the book She. This is also part of the reason, at least for the incredible hunger of people today for drugs. That is a magical way of getting back to the girl ecstasy. Drugs will take you to an ecstatic experience, but I think it is the wrong way. The right way doesn't necessarily take a long time, but it is a long way. There are no shortcuts. The girl experience is dangerous. As we said, too much of it or the experience of it in the wrong time is an invitation to a psychotic experience. The drawbridge can click shut too soon, and one is trapped and cannot get out. It is terrible to observe, but it is true of almost any man that if he thinks something will fill the grail quest in him, no cost is too high. If he were to die the next morning, he would still do it if it promised to fill that grail hunger. It is an irrational thing that knows almost no bounds. Much of the motivation of late adolescence, the daring do, the 90 miles an hour down the highway, or drugs, even if it wrecks him, is unconscious hungering for the grail. A boy almost always misconstrues this eruption of feeling of his feeling life. He translates it into a mood, which is partly a protective device, but it only makes trouble. He has to solve the mood problem before he can get on with the quest. Many boys are immobilized by the mood life and never change. The whole Grail quest gets sidetracked by into a mood experience. The boy eventually becomes only a crotchety old man. It is almost a universal consensus among philosophers and poets in the Western world that life is tragic. Tragedy is a good term for what we are observing. Man in the Grail quest is the tragic man. The word tragedy has come to mean the quest for what one cannot attain or have. That is Western man, and that applies to the Grail Castle. In the middle part of life, we are hungry for something that we cannot have. This is a tragic dimension of life. If a man is really honest and you come up to him and ask him how he is, he may say, as one man very honestly said to me once, well, Robert, I am turning the crank. Middle age is a time in which the two Grail Castle visits he is proceeding, he is doing his duty, he is getting the mortgage paid off, getting the kids through school, and keeping his job going, but he is not satisfied, for deep within himself is the hunger for the Grail Castle. One looks to see the parallel in a girl's life. Okay, here we go. She never leaves the Grail Castle. This is another thing one must understand about men. Women keep a sense of beauty, a sense of connectedness, a sense of at homeness in the universe that a man doesn't have. I don't think a man is more creative than a woman, but his creativity comes in a different form. The pressure, the emergency quality of a man's creativeness comes because a man leaves the Grail Castle. A woman discovers what always is, and a man goes out and makes or creates afresh, or thinks he does. Einstein was quoted as saying, I now bask in the solitude which was so painful to me in my youth. The loneliness of feeling a pressure in a man is the hurt of his Grail experience. To have seen something so beautiful and then to be without it is nearly unendurable. Unendurable. Oh, I said that right. Many men try to make a flesh and blood woman feel this loneliness. They try to make an outer woman into the grail for him. This doesn't work because they are trying to make her into something that she cannot possibly be. This is asking something outer to fill an inner need. The current fascination with Oriental religions is a direct grail quest. The peoples of the East never fractured as Western man did. They never got into or out of the grail experience so violently. Oriental philosophers regard the West and say, "What in the world is this great push and hunger in your people?" So their philosophy and point of view are very attractive to us now, but in my estimation, it is not very effective for us because it doesn't deal with our situation directly. Westerners can't just let be as Orientals can. We are too fragmented to go at it in such a direct way. The Grail myth works more effectively for us because it is rooted in Western psychology. Yeah. Basically, even though those people work hard, I'm not saying people don't work hard over there, but like that thing about Alan Watts, um, like to just be like the tree, the tree knows what to do and the leaves know when to fall. And in as with like the industrializedness of it all, it reminds me like people's grail myth nowadays, I think often is to live off the land, to be off grid, to not be as dependent on what a lot of people refer to as the matrix. Like it makes sense because you touched upon that most likely in youth, like the beauty of nature, the serenity, how you just like feel better when you're outside more. Earth Brain, thank you, Earth Brain. That is such a nice compliment. You are such a beautifully rich woman. I cannot think of the words without sounding like toxic masculinity. You are magnificent, bless you. That is so nice. Thank you. Yes, it is very grounding pyramid. You're right. That is a good way of saying it. So there are Okay, all of this is an oversimplification, of course. Theoretically, a man may visit the Grail Castle at any time. He doesn't necessarily come to it just twice. There are moments all along in a man's life when he gets a little bit of the Grail quality. This keeps him going. If a person were to make a list of things, places, or circumstances that have brought this quality to him, it would be a revelation. Almost always there are small things. That morning when the toast tasted so good out of the toaster. Or that Saturday when he turned the corner and the clouds had a special pattern, or the day that someone paid him a bit of a compliment just in passing. It is almost never the big dramatic thing, but the little thing that for just a moment puts him in touch again with the Grail. The drawbridge is a hint about the nature of the Grail castle. It doesn't exist in physical reality. It is an inner reality, a vision. It is poetry, a mystical experience. It is not a specific place. One must know and understand this if he is grail questing. One of the first things that goes wrong with one's quest is that he expects to find the happiness of the grail experience with an outer something or in some place. This never works because the grail isn't a place. How many men have made how many pilgrimages to particular spots where grail castles burst open to them in their youth? How many men go back to the place where they grew up thinking that that place had something to do with their grail experience? The Grail Castle is an experience that comes at a certain level of consciousness. It is a poetic imagery, mystical vision. It does not exist in what is commonly called reality. The fact that the drawbridge struck the back of the feet of the horse is a small but eloquent reminder that entering and leaving the Grail Castle are dangerous. Many a youth has been toppled going or coming from the Grail Castle. It is not at all uncommon for a youth simply to go to pieces at such a moment. You must be very tender and gentle with a boy when he is going through a Grail Castle experience. Don't tease him, he can't stand it. And that's interesting because, like, there are that's just especially, like, men do it to each other, right? Like, I understand, like, it's just, like, you tease each other, but I also think, like, it's really important to just, like, to know when to be there for somebody and to be able to at least stand up for yourself maybe and be like, "Okay, stop it," you know? Um Oh, that's nice, Yoder. Theoretically, it should be possible for a man to stay in the Grail Castle the first time. The Benedictine monks observed this possibility in the days in the monastery. They took boys very young, as babies, raised them in the Grail Castle, and never let them out, psychologically speaking. I have never known anyone who had this experience. I don't think it is possible for modern people, but maybe it worked at one time. It is important as we go through our story to look at the feminine elements to see what they are doing and then to look at the masculine elements. Some people interpret the whole myth as a war between the masculine bloodshed and the redemptive feminine, but both are brought into balance at the end of the myth in the form of the Grail King. Excuse me. It is said of the sword that constantly drips blood that it was a sword with which Cain slew Abel, and the same sword that pierced Christ's side on the cross. So it is a sword that has done damage in all times, and it bleeds constantly. Parsifal is torn between his masculine sword wielding quality and his feminine grail hunger. These two interplay constantly. In the Grail Castle, the sword that drips blood and the grail are held close together. That represents the unification of the man's aggressive quality with his soul, which searches for love and union. Unless it can be brought into balance, these two things create warfare in any man. The sword is redeemed when it is drawn into the crucifixion and fulfills a holy purpose. This is the case with a man's sword wielding masculinity. It is redeemed only by suffering. A woman has to wring her hands and keep still when she sees her man heading into a disastrous situation that will bring him into suffering. He has to do it. It is his redemption. If done intelligently, it doesn't need to take very long or very much suffering or cause very much suffering, but men are not known for intelligence at this point. So the sword that bleeds is the sword being redeemed by suffering. So this is something not known in the Orient. Oriental philosophers look at our symbolism and say, why is there all this gory business involving so much blood? The moment a culture takes unto itself as much conquest as the Western world has done, it is going to have a bloody sword to cope with. This Aryan, colonizing, domineering thing in our culture springs out of our failure at the Grail Castle. That's very interesting. This Aryan, colonizing, domineering thing in our culture springs out of our failure at the Grail Castle. Some might call that the patriarchy. There is a legitimate way of coming back to the Grail Castle. There are highly instructive parallels between Christ and the Fisher King. The two stories resemble each other in many ways, with the important difference that the very wise man, Christ, makes the quest the right way, but he still has to go through all the stages. When Christ went to the temple at age 12 and rebuked his parents, this was his first Grail Castle, so to speak. He touched something very big, his manhood, his strength. He wasn't badly wounded by it because he understood. He later had to go back to it and was absorbed totally into it. That is the idealized prototype for us to follow. However, I'm especially fond of the 12th century Grail myth because it steps it down for us. It is a little bit more human. I can identify with it more directly. And we read that in the first book reading of this book. So I am going to go ahead and read chapter 7 because I want to. I'm going to read a few comments. Story said, our souls are restless till they rest in thee, St. Augustine, upon finally connecting with God. Oh, beauty, ever ancient, ever new. That's a nice story. And Yoder came back in recently. I'm glad you're back, Yoder. Oh, Fishing Queen, I hope you have a good night, sweetheart. Take good care of yourself. I'm really sorry about everything you're going through. Chapter 7. Let us return to Parsifal. He has left the Grail Castle, and the drawbridge has ticked the back feet of the horse. He rides on, coming to a sorrowful maiden who has her dead lover in her arms. Her knight was killed when another knight, the lover of the woman at the tent we talked about earlier, went into a rampage when he came back and found that Parsifal had been with his fair damsel. He went right out and slew the first person he could find, this knight. So this knight's death was really Parsifal's fault, and the sorrowing maiden tells Parsifal so in no uncertain terms. She then asks where he has been. He says that he has been in the local castle. She says there is no castle within 30 miles. He describes the Grail Castle, and she says, oh, you have been in the Grail Castle. Then she fairly lights into him, berates him terribly, tells him that he did not ask the question he should have, and so the Grail Castle is not relieved of its spell, and the illness of the Fisher King is not healed. This, she says, is all Parsifal's fault. She goes through a list of his sins, saying that the knights will continue to be slain, maidens will still be bereft, the lands will remain barren, and the Fisher King will still suffer. There will be many orphans, and all of this is Parsifal's fault because he didn't ask the proper question. Then she asks Parsifal who he is. Until this time, his name has never been used in the myth. Now he blurts out that his name is Parsifal. Not until Parsifal was in the Grail Castle does he have any conception of who he is. He had no sense of his individual identity before, but after he has been in the Grail Castle, he knows who he is. Parsifal goes on. In due time, he comes to the maiden of the tent. She is sitting in rags and mourning. Her knight has treated her badly ever since Parsifal blundered into her tent. The maiden tells Parsifal to go away because her knight will kill Parsifal if he comes along. Then she too reiterates this misdeed in not asking the crucial question in the Grail Castle. Her knight does come back, but Parsifal subdues him in a duel and sends him off to Arthur's court. There is an endless stream of knights sent back to Arthur's court by Parsifal. Perhaps it is important not to end in neurosis until we have overcome enough within ourselves. The weeping damsel then tells Parsifal that the sword which was given him in the castle will break the first time he uses it in battle, that it is not trustworthy. She says that it can only be mended by the smith who made it. However, she says when it is repaired, it will never break again. This is a boy's normal experience. The masculinity a boy uses at first comes from his father. He breaks the first time he uses it. He goes out and tries to do something the way his dad did it, but it doesn't work. It is only an imitation. It takes another father, a spiritual father, a godfather, to repair it. Then it is good, and it will uphold the rest of his life. Now, so many conquered knights have turned up at Arthur's castle that the whole court is in turmoil over this hero whom they didn't recognize before. They want Parsifal to come to Arthur's castle and be the great man of the day in Arthur's court, but they don't know where he is, so Arthur sets forth to search for Parsifal. Arthur vows he will not sleep twice in the same bed until he finds this magnificent hero, the greatest knight of all time. Parsifal is camping not far from Arthur's court, but he is not aware of it. Then a very curious thing happens. One of the most puzzling things in the myth, a falcon attacks three geese in the air and wounds one of them. Three drops of blood fall from the wounded goose onto the snow. When Parsifal sees this, he is immediately reminded of Blanchefleur, whom he hasn't thought of for some time. Parsifal is always forgetting somebody. He goes off on a tangent and forgets. How many adolescents have come home with a sudden dawn of recognition? Oh, I forgot. I got interested in something else and I forgot. There are three drops of blood in the snow, and Parsifal falls into a lover's trance, remembering his fair lady. He just sits there staring at the drops of blood in the snow. Two of Arthur's men see Parsifal in this moment. They recognize him and try to convince him to come back to Arthur's court. I feel like I haven't stopped enough in a while. Okay, there was me stopping. And Parsifal's strange lover's trance, and with his extraordinary knightly power, he unhorses first and then first one and then the other. The second knight who has his arm broken. Incidentally, he is the knight who had insulted the maiden who hadn't laughed for 6 years. Remember when she laughed, one of the knights insulted her and threw Parsifal into the fire? Parsifal swore he would avenge this. Suddenly, the legend is beginning to pull together. The maiden is now avenged. A third knight, Gawain, appears. He asks Parsifal very gently and humbly if he will come back to Arthur's court with him, and Parsifal agrees. Another version of this curious section of the story has it that the sun came out and melted the snow enough so that the two of the three drops of blood disappear, and Parsifal is released so that he can function again and now go to Arthur's court. Now, this is a strange bit of mythology we have in our hands. Blanchefleur, the snow, three drops of blood, Parsifal suddenly waking from his trance. If the sun hadn't melted two drops of the blood, Parsifal might have been immobilized forever. Numbers in mythology and dreams are often highly instructive. Remember how many fours there were in the Grail Castle? This was telling us in symbolic language that the Grail Castle was a place of wholeness, a place that had the character of the quaternity. Four seems to represent completeness, peace, stability, timelessness. I do like using numbers and, like, recognizing, like, certain numbers represent certain things, but I'm not a huge fan of when people are like they can take, like, any word or any date and, like, somehow, like, twist it into their, like, little theory with numbers. Earthbrain said, I believe Alan Watts is on point. God experiencing itself through infinite, ever changing eyes, joy and suffering are both fine because we are all ultimately one playing the same game. Yes, Earthbrain. I like to think that too, and that our souls chose our journeys. That is it's one easy way to wrap your mind around why things happen to innocent people, especially little kids. Like such bad things happen to people before they even get a chance at life. Like maybe their soul decided to make that journey, and then that is why it elevates their souls and the people around it then that go through it with them. Okay, numbers in mythology and dreams are I read that. Three, on the other hand, represents urgency, incompleteness, restlessness, and striving. That's funny because three is my favorite number. I think I see a play on the completeness of the Grail Castle experience and the incompleteness of Parsifal's immediate human relationship with Blanchefleur. They are both good, but I think they are telling us that Blanchefleur experience is a powerful but partial system, and the Grail experience is a total system, embracing everything. When one is in the dilemma of three, if one is struggling with three, he must increase it to four or reduce it to one. These are the only bearable solutions or possibilities. Parsifal can't get back to the Grail Castle. He can't go from the symbolism of three to the symbolism of four, so the next best thing is to reduce the symbolism to one, and then he can function again. Sometimes, if one is in a paralyzing dilemma, he must reduce his consciousness a bit just in order to function. If he can go ahead and can progress to the next number, then of course this is the best of all. But if he can't, he must regress a little just to save himself and function again. Two is bad because he gets stuck in its duality. One and four are workable. Two and three are difficult, unstable, incomplete. They are stages one has to go through and are worthy of one's respect, but one may not tarry there. The implications of this number symbolism may also relate to the Christian doctrine of the Trinity. This is a thorny subject, and I don't want to go very far with it, but it would seem that the Trinitarian view of the man's nature or the Godhead is incomplete. The threeness of God requires the inclusion of the fourth to achieve completeness and stability. Anytime one has a Trinitarian system going, there will be an adversary somewhere for something will have been left out. For what has been rejected will reappear as the devil. For whenever something of the spirit that belongs to wholeness is excluded, it turns against us. Young has made quite a bit of this and often suggests that what has been excluded from the Christian Trinity is the dark feminine element of life. So it comes back to plague us as a kind of chthonic devil. I do not recognize this word at all. I'm sorry. Chthonic. That is so weird. Chthonic. What the heck? We are apparently in an age where the consciousness of a man is advancing from a Trinitarian to a quatern, from a Trinitarian to a quaternitarian view. This is one possible and profound way of talking about the extreme chaos our world is now in. One hears many dreams of modern people who, knowing nothing consciously of this number symbolism, dream of three turning into four. This suggests we are going through an evolution of the consciousness from the nice, orderly, all masculine concept of ultimate reality to the Trinitarian view of God. We are moving toward a quaternitarian view. I can't say that. Quaternitarian, yeah, quaternitarian view that includes the feminine as well as other elements that are pretty difficult to handle. I'm sorry, to include if one insists on a system of perfection. For it seems that it is God's purpose now to replace an image of perfection with completion or wholeness. Perfection suggests something all pure with no blemishes, dark spots, or questionable areas. Wholeness includes even the darkness, but combines the dark elements with the light elements into a totality. Generally speaking, the Christian striving has been toward goodness and perfection, not toward wholeness and completion. The movement toward wholeness is a formidable task, for it always involves us in a paradox. I am not at all sure that mankind is capable of that task right now, but it seems to be thrust upon us anyway. Young rightly suggests that the 1950 dogma of the bodily assumption of the Virgin Mary into heaven is the dogmatic statement of the quaternity. Mary in her body now lives in majesty in heaven. Taken literally, this is all nonsense, but taken psychologically, it is important, for it is the inclusion of the earthy, feminine element into the heavenly trinity. Now there are no longer just three male aspects of God. A fourth and feminine element is added. Femininity is belatedly recognized as an element worthy of reigning forever with God. Young was jubilant about listen to me, the dogma of bodily assumption of the Virgin Mary in heaven, but it has come and gone and has been mostly forgotten, and hardly anyone has noticed. But if one can hear this extraordinary event in the right way, there may be hope for the church. The feminine, the fourth element, is added to the Trinity. If we can follow the guidance laid out for us, then there is hope for the future. As soon as the fourth element is given dignity and status, it is no longer the adversary. It is an adversary only when it is excluded. Then it pounds on the door, so to speak, to get in and naturally looks like evil to us. It is here we make the elements devilish by excluding them. It is who make the elements devilish by excluding them. It is a general principle that anything rejected from one's psyche becomes hostile. If one understands this, one is well on the way to knowing what to do about it. When a man sees the devil, sees the evil element as often the feminine side, when the man's feminine side is excluded, he often gets witchy. Much of the darkness of the rejected element during the Middle Ages was feminine, hence all the witch hunting. Witch hunting was not just an isolated incident here and there that got a lot of publicity. At the height of the witch hunting, there were more than 4 million women burned at the stake in Europe. This was because the dark feminine element was seen in such a negative light. Now we hold our breath to see if the seemingly dangerous element can be included in the general psychic economy. It can't be done naively because inclusion of the rejected side is a dangerous operation. If one has antagonized the wolf, then one doesn't just suddenly open the door and say, "Now, come on in." Okay, we are so close to being done. I'm 71 and there's only 84 pages. I am starting to make a little bit some more mistakes. But yeah, I think it's really interesting how, and I said it was funny the other night. I said I don't like all the like dark femininity stuff. It's like the women that try to be like dating coaches, teaching other women how to like be basically what they hate and like like cheat and just be not nice people and use um use their dark femininity to their advantage, which I don't think, unless you're talking about like doing business, I don't believe you should be using your dark femininity to your advantage of romantic relationships or any relationship really. Yoder said exactly reflection in the water in the mirror. Am I reading too fast, Junior? I'm sorry. I get into the groove and it's like it helps me to keep going a little fast. I am going to read chapter 8 now. I'm excited. What if we finish this? It's 39 minutes in. This is a shorter chapter than the last two were. Parsifal is escorted in triumph to Arthur's court. He is the lion of the day. He is the greatest knight who ever lived. Celebration and great festivities go on for 3 days. One could hardly wish for anything better. To be the head of Arthur's court is the ultimate in knighthood. So now Parsifal is head man, top of the heap in Arthur's court. Then on a decrepit old mule that limps on all 4 feet, in comes a hideous damsel. I have to quote the description. Her black hair was trussed in 2 braids. Iron dark were her hands and nails, her closed eyes small like a rat's, her nose like an ape and cat, like an ape and cat, her lips like an ass and bull. Bearded was she, like me, humped breast and back, her loins and shoulders twisted like roots of a tree. Never in royal court was such a damsel seen. The hideous damsel rides into the camp on her mule, stops everything cold, and recites all of Parsifal's sins. She recites in detail what he didn't do in the Grail Castle, why he didn't do it, the plight of the king because of this, and then she says that it is all Parsifal's fault. She tells long stories about the knights that have already been slain because of Parsifal's failure, the weeping damsels, the devastated lands, the orphan children. Then she points an accusing finger at Parsifal and says, "It is all your fault." This is a hideous damsel. This usually happens at the very apex of a man's career, at the time of his greatest success. He has just been named president of the corporation. He has just been elected to the academy, has just made his first million or whatever the apex of life is for him. And within 3 days, the hideous damsel will walk in on him. This is an anima gone absolutely sour and dark. There is some correlation between the amount of fame and adulation that one gets in the outer world and the condition of the anima. The condition of the anima. They often have an inverse relationship to one another. When a man really succeeds, then he is often in for trouble with his anima. I am told that the technical term for this is involutional melancholia. I prefer to call it the hideous damsel. It is much more descriptive, but she serves an excellent purpose, and a man can learn much at this point. In fact, he must learn if he is to get beyond his depression. This is that destroying, spoiling quality in a man at about middle age. Suddenly, the savor has gone out of everything. The hideous damsel whispers in his ears, "What is the use of going to the office? What difference does it make? What good is it? What does it all mean?" The wife has long since ceased being the anima for him. The children are either difficult or gone. The new boat isn't as invigorating as he thought it was going to be. The last vacation didn't work very well. He is just turning the crank. These are all manifestations of the hideous damsel. We just live in a sick world, don't we? Our world is just like bad for us. That's how I feel about it. A man often comes down with a series of vague complaints at this time. His stomach is an appropriate organ for the hideous damsel. He is also very likely to try a new mistress. The term fatal 40s is accurate, I think. When the hideous damsel lands upon one, it is just about fatal to try to dispel her by getting some new fair damsel. So, this is Parsifal's experience of the hideous damsel. The court is absolutely stricken by this. No one argues with her. No one has anything to say because it is all true. Then she begins to parcel out tasks to the 466 knights in Arthur's court. These explicit numbers in the myth are often highly illuminating and sometimes equally highly puzzling. I don't know what in the world to do with 466, but there are 466 knights for the edification of your conscious, unconscious, even if we can't understand consciously. One she sends off to lift a siege from a castle, another to slay a tiresome dragon in the next country. She sends everybody off, each on his task. Each knight goes off alone. All group activity stops at this moment. It becomes an individual quest. Each man has his own quest. They are forbidden to take their wives, or their fair maidens with them. They go riding off alone. Perhaps our culture can begin to understand this part of the myth when enough individuals have dispersed under the command of the hideous damsel, gone through their quest, and made their way back to the Grail Castle. But I don't think the problem can ever be resolved. can either ever be solved collectively. For better or worse, we are individuals, and our way is an individual way. That is why the great collective moves are so ineffective. I regret this because it makes it so hard, but it seems to be so. The hideous damsel sends Parsifal off to search for the Grail Castle for the second time. Parsifal swears a holy vow that he will not sleep in the same bed 2 nights running until he has found the Grail Castle. So here we learn what we must do with the hideous damsel when she comes. She is useful. You must not take tranquilizers and tell her to go away. You must not try to banish her with another fair damsel. You must not try to hide from her. You must not try to argue her down. When we men are 40 or 50 and the hideous damsel turns up and makes her devastating accusations, we must not try to wiggle out of it. It is the universal impulse to try to get out of the accusations of the hideous damsel, but this is absolutely the wrong thing to do. You must stick with her. You must just sit there and take it as long as she chooses to sit there on her mule and outline your faults. Because when she has gone through her long speech, she will then set you on your quest again. This is what she is for. I'm thinking of the Cat Stevens song, Hard Headed Woman. Any good man wants a woman, and this is supposed to be yourself, right? Like your inner consciousness being like, okay, so they're talking a lot of shit about the inner feminine so far, because it does have a negative side, of course, but like this is the good side of that. It might be negative, it might be tough love too. It might be the part of you that is nurturing in the way that's going to kick you in the butt when you need it and remind you scold you like a mother would, you know better, you were raised better than this. And I think that that's really interesting how they put that. Okay. I totally lost my place. Bear with me, guys, for just a second. This is also a good time for a flesh and blood woman to be very, very quiet. First, so that she won't be saddled with the man's projection of the hideous damsel, which the man would be only too happy to put on her. Second, so that the man can get his bearings and learn from the devastating experience. If he can keep faith with the hideous damsel, she will tell him what he has to do. She will sternly order him to continue the search. So all the knights of Arthur's court are sent off on their many quests. Then comes a repetition of the injunction that the knights must remain chaste. I remind you for the 100th time that this hasn't anything to do with what one is doing with flesh and blood women. This is a chaste relationship with that interior woman who is more easily identified with one's feeling side or, God forbid, one's moody side. So all of the knights are told that they must not seduce or be seduced if they are to see the Grail, and they all fail except Parsifal. Many of the 11,000 lines of the poem pursue various knights, their glorious deeds, and their ultimate fall from grace. There are so many fallings from grace. This means that many, many parts of a man go out on a quest but succumb to an anima possession. Many parts of a man fall into a mood or get trapped or get locked into an anima dilemma. But a central part of the man, the Parsifal in him, may remember, understand, and finally make his way through to the Grail in the end. Okay, so there's two more short chapters left. There's like two more short chapters that are each as long as the one that I just read. Dory said she makes him want to be a better man. Yes, because if somebody is sitting around just being a pretty Stepford wife, right? Like just saying that's what some men consider respect. Like in that trope, like men are loved by showing them respect. Women feel loved when you respect them too. Like that goes both ways. I think we all thrive off of respect. But when people are saying that, what they're really trying to say is men thrive off of women who sit down and shut up and the most productive people have people around them that they trust and love and that love them and will correct them, right? Like we need that. Okay, let's go ahead and keep going. Yoder said true love only exists when you stop and see you can't fix him, but just help him on his way. You hope to make him a better man. Right. Chapter 9. Parsifal goes on through innumerable episodes. Some versions of the myth have it that he travels for 4 or 5 years, others say 20. All manner of things happen. He grows more bitter, more disillusioned. He gets harder and harder. He is farther and farther from his Blanchefleur, his feminine consciousness. He forgets why he is wielding the sword. He conquers knights right and left for less and less reason and with less joy within himself. Then he comes across a band of ragged pilgrims who are wandering along. They say to him, "What in the world are you doing riding around at full tilt like this on Good Friday?" And he says, "Is it Good Friday?" Suddenly Parsifal remembers. In a reverie, he remembers what his mother taught him about the church. He remembers Blanchefleur. He remembers the Grail Castle. He is stricken with nostalgia and remorse. He asks the pilgrims where they are going, and they say, "To a hermit for Good Friday confession." Parsifal joins them. They make their way to the hut of a hermit who turns out to be Parsifal's uncle, his father's brother who has become a monk. Oh, that is very interesting. I don't think we've heard of any other family at this point besides like all his family who has passed, his brother, dad, mother. The hermit is the introverted part of one's masculine heritage. When all of one's masculine activities are extroverted, 5 or 20 years of extroversion are of no avail. Finally, one sees that he isn't going to be able to work his way through his dilemma. One sees that the second million or the second wife or whatever extroverted activities he pursues aren't going to solve the problem. Then he turns to his own introverted hermit living in the woods in a little hut. This is where he gets the next bit of strength or power. This is a time for a man to take 6 weeks off from his job and go away to summon that hermit in himself, that extremely introverted sum of energy within him. This will give him the perspective he needs for the next stage of life. People often do this against their will by going to the hospital. They get ill and go to the hospital where they are absolutely immobile, but they come out of it over the hump. It is a rough way to do it, but if one doesn't understand the introversion that is needed to do it consciously, it may be the only way to get an active man to lie down. So is he trying to say this like the body keeps the score type thing? Like, you will express things physically if you try to internalize them. Hey, Mr. Carey, how are you doing tonight? I've been reading for a long time. The hermit also represents another way a boy may follow besides the Red Knight way. Ordinarily, the boy goes through the Red Knight stage, gains his strength, goes out, and wields a sword. But there is another way. A few boys, quiet, introverted souls, go the hermit's way. This is also legitimate. One must understand if he goes the hermit's way, then he is asking nothing of the Red Knight experience. He mustn't ask for the laurel leaves of victory. He mustn't expect top place, a position in the community. Symbolically, he has to go to a hut in the woods and live alone quietly, but this is a way. The hermit's way is not so torn into opposites. He doesn't lose the Grail Castle so completely and devastatingly as Parsifal does, although it is not uncommon for the Red Knight's father to have hermit sons. The hermit way is still rare. If you have such a son, don't ever push him into the Red Knight experience. His way is different. This is much simplified, of course. Actually, everyone goes both ways. A part of every man goes to the hermit way. For instance, when a man wanders off for half a day and wants to be alone, everybody is part hermit. Everybody gets on this charger sometimes to go dashing off. So it is closer to reality to say that each man has both of these elements within him. It is wise to tend both. Yeah, I've said this before and I just want to say it again. Hey, Mr. Carey. I am a high testosterone female and they don't help us balance our hormones. I don't know how they can change genders, but they can't seem to balance hormones of a woman with PCOS. Um, I did get hormone replacement therapy, like a grain of rice size implant. They do it's like incredibly expensive. It's like something crazy, like $2,000 a month or something. So, anyways, basically only really wealthy people can get the real hormone therapy, the best bioidentical. Anyways, this was years and years ago. I really like what they're saying about how everybody has a hermit in them. So we find Parsifal with the hermit. Although Parsifal hasn't said a word, the hermit begins to recite all of Parsifal's faults, the whole long list. It is apparently written all over him. The hermit tells Parsifal that it is because of his mother that all of this has happened, but he tells him gently without reprimanding him. Parsifal has failed to treat his mother correctly, but he has also followed her advice too slavishly. This is an invariable characteristic of the mother complex, that it leads to too much and too little all at the same time. So Parsifal's mother complex has prevented him from freeing the Grail Castle from its spell. The hermit lives the hermit gives Parsifal absolution and tells him that he must now go immediately to the Grail Castle. We find then that Parsifal is capable of going for that second time to the Grail Castle. Here, the great French poem stops. Some people feel that the author died, was interrupted, or that part of the manuscript was lost. I am more inclined to believe that he stopped where he was. He couldn't say any more, and in many ways, he stopped exactly where we are. Why did I just get goosebumps? This is a myth for our time. It is not yet finished. We have to finish it. We have to carry it on. Even though we don't talk about grails and castles and enchanted maidens, still it is our myth to be completed in our lives. The myth has taken us exactly to the point where modern people are now. Collectively speaking, we are stuck at the point where the French poem ends. So if you want a quest, if you want something meaningful for your life, pick up the grail myth where it now lies in you. Well, we're so close. We have to 4 more pages to go, guys. I'm excited. Hello, Javier. How are you? Chapter 10, the final chapter. Other authors try to finish this myth after creation de Troyes. None of these endings is satisfactory or convincing. Maybe this is because the myth was not progressed in our souls any farther than the French poem, but let's look at these endings anyway and see what we can learn. According to some versions of the myth, Parsifal makes his way immediately to the Grail Castle. He sees, he understands. Now, it is true that as soon as a man knows about the Grail Castle consciously, and as soon as he is humble enough and courageous enough, he can go immediately to it. No amount of swashbuckling about it will get him there, but if he asks for the Grail Castle with all his heart, he finds it immediately. Parsifal finds the drawbridge and goes over. It is exactly the same as it was before. The Fisher King is still suffering. After the necessary formalities, Parsifal asks a question: whom does the Grail serve? The answer is given immediately. The Grail serves the Grail King. A strange answer. The Grail King is not the Fisher King. The Grail King lives in the central room at the castle. He has lived there from time immemorial. He worships the Grail constantly, is fed by the Grail, and has nothing to do with anything but the Grail. He worships it. He tends it. He and the Grail are in constant communion and exchange. So here's the answer to the perplexing question that has dogged us all this time. Whom does the Grail serve? The Grail serves the Grail King. I have lived with this answer to the question for months and slowly evolved some understanding of it. Almost everybody in our culture thinks that the Grail is to serve us, but here there is something essential to learn. The great search for most Americans is for happiness, which is to say that we ask the Grail to serve us. We ask that this great cornucopia of nature, this great feminine outpouring, all of the material of the world, the air, the sea, the animals, the oil, the forest, and all the productivity of the world, we assume that it should serve us. And the lesson that we have to learn is that this cornucopia of nature does not serve us, it serves God. Oh, that is such a great message. I love that so much. The Grail King is the image of God, the earthly representation of the divine. The myth is telling us that our task is to learn that the Grail serves the Grail King, not that the Grail serves us. As in the recent myth, The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien, this person had no idea when they wrote this. It's funny. The power must be taken from those who would exploit it. In the Grail myth, the source of power is given to the representative of God. In the Tolkien myth, the ring of power is taken from evil hands and put back into the ground from which it came. Earlier myths often spoke of the discovery of power and its emergence from the earth into human hands. Recent myths speak of returning the source of power to the earth or into the hands of God before we destroy it ourselves. Before we destroy ourselves with it. We are not prepared yet to hear this change that is required of us, but there are the beginnings of consciousness in this direction. The ring is our modern selfishness. I'm so sorry. The ring is our modern self conscious power, our science. We must relinquish this power. In this brave new world we have around us, or it will destroy us. I think the modern form of the great question, a form that would be meaningful to us, is where do we live for? Okay, now I'm going to start messing up when I have 3 pages left. What do we live for? As soon as one asks that question and has the courage to hear the answer, one has a surprise in store that will heal the Fisher King wound in him. The object of life is not happiness, but to serve God or the Grail. All of the Grail involvements are to serve God. If one understands this and drops his idiotic notion that the meaning of life is personal happiness, then one will be flooded with happiness. The myth says that as Parsifal asks a question, the Fisher King is immediately healed. Rejoicing begins in the Grail castle. The Grail is brought forth, it gives its food to everyone, and there is perfect peace, joy, and well being. Here is this incredible dilemma. If you ask for the Grail to make you happy, you have precluded happiness. If you will serve the Grail and the Grail King properly, you will be flooded with happiness. Alex de Tocqueville, a Frenchman who came to America more than a century ago, made some astute observations about the American temperament, atmosphere, and idiom. He said that we have a misleading idea in our Constitution, the pursuit of happiness. One, now she's like kicking the air filter, excuse me. The pursuit of happiness. One can't pursue happiness, it won't work. A formulation for these days will go something like this: if you will serve your reality, you will be flooded with happiness. But if you merely search for happiness, you will dispel the very happiness for which you are looking. There are terrible things going on about which the Grail myth would enlighten us. It could lead us out of some dilemmas. We are just beginning to ask, for example, if we have the right to poison the air and cut down all the trees and pump all the oil and kill all the pelicans. We are just beginning to ask the Grail question: what is all this for? Is it only for us? Oh, I love that. And this is from 1972, mind you. The Grail myth suggests the only possible answer to that question. We must manage the things of the earth for the glory of God, not for man or Superman. No, Elon Musk, not for you and your rocket ships. If one could ask the question, whom does the Grail serve? If one could evolve consciousness to understand what this question means, he would take it very seriously and ask it in full consciousness. Then he would find out the answer is immediate once the question is asked. Then a false search for happiness stops and a flood of happiness comes. This is where we are. This is the next evolution of mankind required of us. We are just on the edge of it. We are just lisping out the first syllable of that great question, which will heal all of us Fisher Kings. And so, with Parsifal, we have made a long journey, a round trip from the Garden of Eden to the heavenly Jerusalem, from Grail Castle to Grail Castle. With Parsifal, we have learned that we must ask the great question: whom does the Grail serve? And we must not just assume that it serves us. We have an imitation we have an intimation of the answer to the great question of the meaning of life itself if we have journeyed far enough and have enough consciousness to hear and understand that answer. I'm going to read the last sentence of the book again. We have an intimation of the answer to the great question of the meaning of life itself if we have journeyed far enough and have enough consciousness to hear and understand that answer. What does intimation mean? No, I'm not the only person wondering that. Um, I think they're trying to say, like, we have an inkling of the answer to the great question of the meaning of life itself if we have journeyed far enough and have enough consciousness to hear and understand that answer. And yeah, I think it's a great way of putting a lot of men don't grow up till they're like 40 to 50. And that's something that a lot of women have to contend with. And that's like it also stunts women in a way when a man's growth is stunted, like if we all affect each other, we all need each other. So it's going to be interesting to get into the she books and see what they talk about, like a woman's masculine. And I'm going to assume like what she has to contend with is like the negative aspect of the animus, which is her inner masculinity, which would I would assume which would be like uh, maybe not aggression, because the negative part of the inner female was, oh, that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to reading She again. Obviously, I forget most of it, but it's a really good message that this brings to part of growing up is realizing like it isn't about you, it's not for you, it's not for your happiness. And I don't really want to get into it on this video. I'd like to keep this video like not related to my personal life at all. But it's something a lot of women, especially, I think a lot of women are out there, and I saw this video recently where this woman said, "My husband's perfect in every way. Like I have the perfect life, but like I want to get divorced." And people were like, "Are you crazy? Like why are you getting ready to throw away a good man, a good marriage?" At least, a lot of people said that. I'm sure some people were supporting her and patting her on the butt. But there's a lot of women that like live by their feelings in a bad way. And I do believe that's like a huge way they divide and conquer us and manipulate us. They know that people are very easily manipulated. Okay, let me read a few comments. I spoke with my father and I let him assume control is needed again. I do need a girlfriend, though, DC said. Oh, well, it sounds like you were out of contact with your dad. This literally has all come to pass in a few days. I'm going to read and see if you left any other comments. I'm going to read several comments to catch up. Okay. Archetypes meaning the million masks of God, Earthbrain said. Yoder said, I'm literally being accused now of being FBI, Mr. Carey. The mother of my son and I are just too different. We had hope because of how much fun we had together. Many years later, we are dead. I am devastated, but agree we need to separate oil and water. Earthbrain, I hear ya. Like, I know how hard that is. I'm so sorry. Should I like go live a third time? I feel like I just don't want to make like the end of this like, a big long chat. But like I think the message in this is really powerful and it's important to just remind yourself everybody has their inner battles. You never know. Somebody might have just gone through something like that day. And I was thinking about everything I've gone through. I have two women in my life I really look up to in particular, more than that, but it was like a few women that have just said like a few things that made me feel so much better. Like you never know, like a paragraph, one conversation, one letter, like you could do something that resonates with somebody for the rest of their life. And it's sad to me. I think men in particular are they're missing out on that. Like women tend to compliment each other more, and like um, men they just like live like this harsher life in a lot of ways, which I do like think it must be hard. It must be difficult to have certain expectations placed upon you, because I know what that's like as a woman. But with a man, it is different, and I think it is a lot more hard to have to like fall in line with a rigid definition of masculinity. And we have a lot more. Femininity is just so great and all over the place anyway. But I mean, with guys, they have like when you dress up, you have like suits, tuxedo, like that's it. And like think about like all the different ways women can express themselves when they dress up, stuff like that. Yoder said my husband just cussed out him. Okay, well, anybody that's here for the book reading, like we're gonna be talking from here on out and not much about the book. So you might want to sign off. But I do totally intend on like breaking out I mean it like tomorrow. Like we need to get into that book. I need it for myself. But yeah. Okay, so I did a video earlier, Mr. Carey, where I was talking about Titus, and basically, I don't know if you've seen with your two eyes, Carrie, but like Aaron made this video a few days ago where it's like him and Titus and Stephanie in the phone shack, ganging up against somebody on the phone who's saying everything right and true that like most of us feel about Titus. Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that you had this past and you did these things with horses and in front of children. And like this person told him to turn himself in. And Aaron's sitting there like snickering and giggling and chiving it on. And he posts that thinking he's making the person on the phone look bad. He's still on their side, guys. Why would he post that video and be like, "Oh, and she has many different" he calls her a YouTuber. She has many different YouTube accounts. So she doesn't make YouTube videos. She doesn't make YouTube videos. She's not a YouTuber. Gosh, it's just like I don't feel I don't know, like, I know I come off as I'm making fun, I'm not, I sincerely don't know, like, I think I have brain damage, okay? I think I'd like to get an MRI of my brain, I think I've got some brain damage going on. I think a lot of people do, and I just don't know what is going on inside somebody's brain, like Aaron adds, that, like, can't stay away from Henson Creek and, like, has to go travel there constantly and, um, make content about it, and then be hateful towards people like me that are like on the same side, and like nobody's ever going to agree with somebody 100% of the time. Like me and Anna can talk all day long, we don't agree about everything, and it's nice to like know like somebody looks at you as a friend. Like if you disagree about things, that's fine. Like not everybody is going to think exactly alike. Like even the conjoined twins, I don't know why this popped into my head, but even like conjoined twins disagree about things. People that have like literally had the exact same life experience, they probably still have things they don't agree on. Did you guys see those conjoined twins had a baby? Between your first show to now, I had three people call me and text my husband and whatnot, yoders, and for what? That's why I keep saying, hi, James, how are you? Um, what is anybody saying? The opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy, and Aaron clearly, like, has some passion going on for Titus Morris. Um, it's called homosocial, like, and I have no interest in knowing anything about, like, he's clearly got some tick in his head. It's like, there's 375 million people in our country. Like, there's so much going on. There's so many interesting news stories. If I could screen share with you guys, it's just like with these 2 to 4 minute long news clips without much information, it's hard for me to like give you like I see the coolest stories all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could make the best little news segments, but I don't want to sit here and talk to you guys with three details on a story, you know. But anyways, these people are so self-absorbed. It's all about them. It's all about them. Anybody with any discernment can tell Aaron Atz is there's something about him. Like what 50-year-old man acts like him, does the things that he does, leads behind horses. Have you ever seen somebody walk like behind in between two horses like that? I'm sorry. It's just like he's not right. And for him to say anything about me in my personal life, I took down my video because apparently I didn't say word for word what I said to my husband that day on that fateful day. I said, "You're a bad husband, you fucking jerk." So because I didn't say the exact words that I said, he said he would report it if I didn't take it down. That's what I have to deal with. Okay? So does that make a difference? Me saying, "You're a bad husband, you fucking jerk," compared to me just calling him a jerk, and I honestly didn't remember those details, but I believe him if he said that because he was being a bad husband. And I do tend to say the F word too much when I'm upset. And so, yeah, these are the things like women have to deal with. I've had two female mentors, both are in their 70s. You know, like I share a lot more with people that I'm on that kind of level with, and I just feel more grounded in my decisions. Like he's not bouncing his life choices off of 2 70-year-old men. He has no older man in his life like that, and that is part of the problem. I feel like if he did, that older man would be like, "Look, man, like that you're getting ready to lose your wife, and she's been trying to change this for 4 months." And, yeah, that is quite a blessing to have somebody that apparently, I turn him off with my insecurities. My insecurities are triggers, and I couldn't help it. I'm like, "Triggers? You're literally saying I'm triggering you with my insecurities? Like, you need this book so bad. You've got to read this book. You are overtaken by your mood." And anybody that's been with a woman for 20 years, eh, I don't wanna be too like, I don't feel like I'm that insecure. I was just gonna say something. No, I don't wanna say that. I'm not yes, I've had moments of insecurity, don't we all? But, like, I've really come to a place lately in the last year, especially in my life, and where, like, I do love myself in a way that took too long, and, I'm not gonna be shamed by my husband, the person I've shared my body with for the majority of the last 2 decades, the person I've had 3 children by. I'm not gonna be shamed for being insecure sometimes, like, that should be the man that's like, "Oh my gosh, let me help lift you up," you know, like, it's not his responsibility to make me feel better all the time. But for him to say, like, basically, when I'm not perfect, it's triggering to him. If I'm anxious or insecure, then he wants nothing to do with me and is completely turned off by me. And to be told that you are a turn off by a man, the man that you love and are supposed to be with, is it's like a horrible feeling as a woman. Like rejection is a part of life, but you're not supposed to feel rejected by the one person that made vows to you. So, I just get affirmations every day that I'm on the right path, and I feel good about that. And there's not much more to say about it. I don't want anybody to worry about me. Besides like some weirdos getting my address that are like can't wait to get my information. Cause what I called them out on their shit because I said these weirdos act weird. Creepy people are being creepy. Like Stephen Henson was proud of the fact that he's had like dozens and dozens of EPOs taken out on him. That's all I needed to know. I don't have the best discernment. Sometimes it's too much. I'll agree with that. Like, but I'd rather be too safe than sorry. Yeah. And yeah, somebody tells you who they are, then you're going to believe them. Mr. Carey said Abby Hensel's husband says that a popular TikTok account seemingly run by his family is fake and that he and his wife have not confirmed any baby related news at this time. Oh, Mr. Carey, thank you for saying that because I saw it on a pretty big channel. They were pushing around a baby, but they don't want to confirm it. There's pictures of them with a baby in a stroller, so I guess we don't have confirmation yet. Oh, yeah, he can you repeat, please, for Mel because he's awake about the cancer, how he wished about is normal to be insecure, normal to care and lioness of the man. Insecurity is his own fault for not making you feel safe and secure. I know if he that's what I feel like if he thanks, Earth Brain. If he really loved me, he'd be and he's like this. I'm not kidding you guys. This is how he is. Oh my gosh, I've told you I think you're pretty. I've told you that I think you're so attractive. God, you're a little girl. You're acting like a little girl. He likes to call me a little girl. And when he talks to me like that, I can't help but feel like I'm talking to a teenager boy. Yeah, that's an insult to some teenagers. I'm like, I don't say you're a little boy, you're a little boy, like I don't do that stuff either. But not that I'm perfect. I'm not perfect at all. Trust me, I'm not. But I got my fourth biopsy and I said something, I forget what he forgot, but I said, of course, and sighed like that. And I was waiting on biopsy results, and my husband was, I remember this because he said it in front of our 15-year-old son. Our 15-year-old son's in the living room, he's in the kitchen. He said, I hope cancer takes you. That's how he worded it. And I was like, "Did you just say that? Are you like, did you really just say that?" And like, I'm waiting on a biopsy result, and those biopsies are so painful. And like I'm sitting there like, yeah, he has no empathy. What I go through, my struggles, like he's resentful of it. And I've said it for a long time. I feel like a burden. I feel like a burden to myself. Like my health issues burden me. How could they not burden you? Like I try to acknowledge that. Like I understand it must be hard to like live with somebody. Like it's always something. It's like every year I have to have some procedure or surgery or something. Like it's annoying to me. So, yeah, I think that is too much for most men, like most men, even good men. I think he is a good man, but that's what the sad reality of this world is that like a great man is an average woman. A good man, like, the bar is so low for what makes the dad, like, so great. It's like, women that cook and clean, they don't get extra pats on the back, but when a dad does it, it's like, "Oh my gosh, he cooks and he put the kids to bed, oh my gosh," like, he does so much. But, these things are just expected of women. That's what I'm talking about in a domestic duty type way, typically, and there's always exceptions. But, yeah, this is a big reason why women file for divorce 70 to 80% of the time, and I saw this comparison, I just thought this was great. If 70 to 80% of employees quit working, you'd wonder about their company. You'd wonder about who they were working for, what they were doing to those employees. You wouldn't be like, what are the employees' problem? That was the perfect way to put it. And I'm the kind of person like I could on private content where I'm like talking about submission and how like women will like submit to their bosses, submit to these other men in their lives, but like not submit to their husband. He has no idea how many women don't think like me. And like I think that what he was expecting was like literally 100% of the time is submission, and that's what a lot of men want, and it's way too unrealistic in this book when they're talking about the reality of our culture, our Aryan colonizing mindset, this cutthroat, as productivity, hustle culture, like you can't expect any woman to just be like in her soft feminine, cozy element all of the time. It's impossible, and it's something that like more and more men want this traditional female that we're getting farther and farther away from. It's tough. Like trust me, a lot of women wish they could just like lie around and be a pretty woman all day too, but it's just like not the reality. Homer dude said 14 years and still going good. That's good, Homer dude. How are you doing? Oh, you said just don't get married. Yeah, you've been together 14 years. Um, no, I can respect people that decide that that's not for them, like it's not going to be for everybody. And I've heard of people that were together for like 9, 10, 13 years and then they get married and they get divorced within a year. It's interesting. It's like maybe it does, it's just not for everybody. Earthbrain said, yes, Yoder, he's more insecure. Yoder said he may be jealous that you are smarter than he is. You stole his balls away. Yeah, I hate to that's what I was saying, like, I think maybe he'll be happier with somebody more on his level, and I like, that sounds insulting, but I mean that in a sincere way, like, this is all too much. This is too much for him. I'm too much, I said it wrong last night. He said, "I use him as an emotional punching bag," which I find a little funny because he told me earlier tonight to stop laughing. Like, "Stop it with the LOL, stop laughing." I'm like, "I can't help it." Like, okay, I do understand, like, to not be disrespectful or something, but it's like, I'll say something, I'm, like, laughing at myself. I'm like, "Yeah, because of me and, like, all my fuck ups and LOL." Like, I'm laughing at myself trying to, like, it's like a nervous thing. Me typing LOL is like a reflex at this point, like, with so many things, because that's just how I am. Like, I am when I'm talking to you guys. Like, I genuinely am a smiley, bubbly person, and it's like, yeah, yeah. I saw this girl, I think I mentioned her before, and I found her channel. Now I forget the name of it, but she's just like exudes that like bubbly femininity that I think we could all thrive off of. We could all use more of in our life. And she's like going around showing, she's like, "This is how you see just her little homestead." And she's so excited about every little thing, even the things she doesn't know what it is or what the function is for. It's like that, childlike, like in the most positive way possible. Like once again, people want to like shit on childlike naivete a lot, but it's like we need a little bit of that in our lives in order to not like get completely down. Earth Brain said, "You're a gem. Deep thinking threatens people who shallow think." Thank you, Earth Brain. And I really appreciate like all the women, of course. I appreciate my sisters. That I appreciate the men that support me. It's like this guy, Aaron Atz, like he made a post last night when I was talking about my divorce, and he's like, "Oh, it seems like there's some misogyny in South Central Kentucky because he can't get off of it because he's so one track minded. It's it's not right. I don't and once again, I don't wanna make anybody who's atypical feel bad. I don't feel like I'm typical, but he's something else, and, um, it my audience is like 82% males at this point, like, for most videos. A lot of the topics I talk about, I'm interested in because I'm a mother of 3 sons. Like, I definitely don't hate men. If anything, I don't wanna be like, "I'm one of the guys" kinda girl, I'm not, but I do get along with men in general better than women. There was this woman who went undercover as a man. She was a tall, butch lesbian to begin with, and she studied male friendships, and she said she was very surprised by how open and welcoming men were in comparison to women. And she joined this Bible, listen to me, Bible bowling league. I've got Bible on the brain. And sadly, this woman passed away at her own hand. She took her own life years later. And it was so sad to me because she seemed like such a cool person. And obviously, she struggled with like the way this world is. And and it's just so sad, but she brought to light that, like, men aren't the, like, horrible, once again, like, insemination opportunists that so many women think that they are in, male friendship. It can be very wholesome and sweet, and she opened up to these guys about being a woman, and they still remained friends with her, and she was talking about, like, yeah, they were easier even after they found out all of that to stay friends with, and a lot of women, it's just like this constant competition, and that is the internalized misogyny I bring up. That's why so many women are so bitchy. If people like Aaron would listen, like, to, like, because women are automatically judged and looked down upon, just like when you look at somebody and automatically assume things about them because of the color of their skin, you just, like, assume things about somebody because you look and see she's a woman, that affects all of us, and, it affects so much. But yeah. That's the constant competition instead of being in community with each other. Feminism has created people like Kim Kardashian who would really want your daughter to have it as a good role model. Oh, Sans, men have a tougher life. Andrew Tate. You're interesting, oh Sans. Hey, Jesus, how are you doing tonight? Oh, the Rooker. He's somebody who's a 50-year-old. He's, yeah, I don't know. Um, There's so many sweet women out there. There are XJW. There's just like there's a lot of women that put up a front, a lot of women that aren't very nice. And I've experienced that as a woman, and I think a lot of men are like, "Oh, they're so bitchy when we hold the door open for them and stuff like that." And it's like they do that to other women too. Not all men are leaders. Society castrated us years ago. Right, Earth Brain? Yeah, the patriarchy is harmful to all men and women that aren't like the elite men and women at the very top, right? And that's it's kind of a joke the way it's too much. And I thought it was interesting when they talked about us compared to like Oriental and yeah, I think people are trying to get back to nature because they're trying to get back to the source. They're trying to get in touch with things that the more we are in touch with our modern world, like it's bad for us. It's why the birth rate is plummeting, in my opinion. You make life so expensive and so hard to survive. It's like these elite people, they're so some of them, the ones that we are talking about when we say they want it this way, like they have, it's interesting. They're very one track minded and so dumb. It's like they don't understand that they don't understand the lives that we live and they don't care to. They're never going to put themselves in our shoes. They don't know what it's like to like be counting change to buy a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk or, a gallon of gas to get you through till payday in a day or two. Like they have no idea. Yoder said, I called Sunny Valley, said I can come work for the day when I come down. Took 2 minutes. Something Aaron, nor Titus, nor Henson will ever have. Yeah, that's cool, Yoder. I'll be behind the counter helping and working in between the wedding and to Breckenridge. That's nice. Well, I think people are supposed to be leaders of their own lives, and like we literally every single man can't be a leader because then who would be in all the other roles, It's just like I was saying about factory work and where like and I don't think that like even burger flipping should like just be for teenagers. Like I think every job should have a livable wage and we've been brainwashed into thinking that certain things are unskilled labor. If you have to learn it and do it, like I don't think there's anything as unskilled labor. Labor is labor, There is labor that requires more advanced skills, of course. And like I'm not trying to take that away, but we need to stop putting that in people's heads because I don't know what more unskilled labor is than the people in like the what's that show where they bring the boss CEOs from corporations into like the floor level and don't tell anybody it's the big boss, undercover boss, right? None of those people can do the jobs of the people that make like a hundredth of the amount that they do every year. And like, why is that so lost upon people? They're the ones that are unskilled labor. And I know people are, they're not sitting there doing complicated equations. They might be making some decisions sometimes. Oh my gosh. I couldn't imagine living a life where I'm making like $50,000 a month making decisions. I do that. I am doing that already. Can I make a million, 2 million, $300 million a year? Like these special people we just assign that somehow have like earned all this big money. That's not how life works. You guys are so sweet. Um, it could, yeah, burger flipping job if it is on the lower part of the totem pole. I agree with you, Osans, but I still think that all work, when you're serving your community and other people, it should be valued as work, and we shouldn't be putting it like, oh, anybody that's working full time should be able to afford to rent somewhere. We should never have gotten to this point where we are right now. We roast wieners to Yoder said. Carlos has a crush on a girl at work. That's nice, Carlos. Well, I hope, it turns into something for you. I don't know exactly where you work, though. You might want to be careful. For some reason, I was just envisioning a young person, but I don't know. If you work a job, jobs should have to come with livable wage. As we become more efficient, we need to cut the work week. Today, we should have had 20-hour work week. You guys with the hearts, but the gains went to the top. Hey, Zeus, I completely agree with you. Exactly. They've actually proven that people are more productive with 3 to 4 hour work days, but they keep us enslaved in these 8, 10 hour work days, 12 hours it isn't inhumane to work 12-hour shifts. I don't think anybody should ever be doing that. They do it on purpose to control, in my opinion. It's just another, it's a lot easier to control people that literally work and go home and sleep. But yeah. Oh, hi, Fendi. How are you doing tonight? Mr. Carey, yes, and they're after you, but think I'm you. Yoder said, yeah, the pole flips depending on the current time we live in, Earthbrain said. That's a good point. Yeah, I definitely feel like we're at the end of a cycle, and it's interesting that this modern era really started, 12th century. So even though we feel like we're at the end, it might be another 100 years, we probably will be all long gone before the cycle really ends. But yeah, I need to stop fiddling with this book. Enjoy your job is better than making big money being an a-hole. Right, Homer, dude? And you can't take it with you. I've seen some of the funniest memes lately where it's like this old person dancing in front of a house, and it's like boomers after they sell their house for 700 times what they pay for, and like, screw their kids. Like, it's just it's so true. I don't know why that just popped into my head. There's so much greed going on in the world, and I feel like we're just like riding one big wave and it might crash in our lifetime, it might not. I heard someone say you need to make 66 an hour in order to have a livable wage. Fendi, I heard that too, that like the new, like, yeah, I'm sure that's like in a city, but yeah, it's insane the cost of living in that. This one young girl, I followed her because she would do cute videos talking about like her dating experiences. She was just like fun to listen to. Andra something was their name, and she made the most ignorant video. Oh my gosh, if I could grab somebody through the screen and shake them, oh my gosh. She was like, why renting an apartment for 20 years is better than owning a house? This is why it's cheaper. And she said, your rent is about $2,000 a month. Granted, your rent doesn't go up that much over the 20 years. Of course, she's like 21 years old. I was like, "Girl, your rent is gonna go up. Look at what rent was 20 years ago." Like, what the heck? These young people are being so brainwashed out of home ownership. It's just out of reach. It's just like impossible. I understand that feeling, but like, no, there are alternatives. There's different ways to make it work. And like this one person made a comment. I thought this was so brilliant. They're like, if three couples got together and bought one house at a time, and like you could cohabitate in like a three-bedroom house, three couples, and then buy the next house whenever you can, and then and then you buy the third house, like, and you get to the point where you're like all in a house. Somehow that just sounds like a way for people to get their foot in the door more easy into home ownership, and I really do like, it's not right. It's not right. Like, I couldn't rent what I own right now, like, that's not right, and one reason why people are being struggling is because 'cause they're priced out of renting. It's not when are they gonna stop? Like, it's oh my gosh, for anybody so her logic was you put more into the house over the 20 years without acknowledging you also have like $1 million of equity. It's just like these kids, they're purposely not teaching them any of this and making and those messages were given to us too. Oh, like you might have a big repair, like it might be more trouble than it's worth. But like we literally couldn't afford a three-bedroom rental. Like we couldn't afford that. How does that make any sense? I think I'm gonna take chance and say, fuck it, buy a bunch of lottery tickets. Oh, Fendi, yeah, the Powerball. Time is money. Oh, Sans, yes. I can send some free donuts and whatnot, Yoder said. Oh, hey, John Henry, how are you doing tonight? Anna Sheriff Weddle knows us well in a good way. John Henry, the hard part is not all couples are created equal when it comes to credit worthiness. Yeah, yeah, that is true. You would really have to be three people, six people, three couples are on the same level financially and everything. That isn't going to be easy for a lot of people. But I also think so many people around here living, I don't want to like show people's homes, but there's so many plots of lands where there's like two or three RVs on it. And like these are places I've driven by for years, and it's like the same RVs. It's definitely people living there. A lot of them will have a storage shed on site. And it, still, if you buy the land at the right price, like you still might be better off living in an RV at least than like you're if you bought the land flat out, you're only paying property tax, or it would have to be probably be much cheaper than buying a house if you couldn't buy a house, like, it just makes me so sad, and that's the kind of thing you never see in Indiana, like, they would never allow, like, plots of land with 2 or 3 RVs camping out on it. Oh, good night, Sans. It's hard to align financially. Some peeps think they're owed it, other like yourself have to work your ass off for it. Right, that is true. Mr. Carey, some of the deputies know me as the guy who one pulled me over with Florida plates, and his reason for pulling me over, I appeared to be in a hurry and I didn't look familiar. And I told the deputy that. That's funny. I ran a stop sign once in Louisville with Florida plates, and the cop was such a jerk. He was such a jerk. I went and complained about him. I did. I said, "This guy made my son in the back seat like fearful of cops. Is that like what you want?" Like he was such a jerk. And then he's like, "Do they not stop at stop signs in Florida?" Was the first thing he said to me. It was so funny. I'm not. It was one of those stop signs everybody rolls through, okay? It was like this weird three-way stop where it's like you're basically stopping for a train track. There's no train come. Anyways, I'm sorry, guys. I need to get off of here. I'm just rambling now. It has to match up. Sorry, I'm a land and finance guy. Oh, that's cool, John Henry. I love that. I am really hoping that the interest rates go down sometime in the next few years. I like my son's, he's 15 years old. I'd like to get him through high school before we move again. But I personally would like to get more land. I'd like more privacy. Like I really like our neighbors. It couldn't be a better situation neighbor wise. So I'm cozy as long as God's plan is to keep me here. I really, but if we could sell this place, I would. Oh my gosh, I've seen some foreclosures lately. I'm starting to see the foreclosures. Not that they weren't always there, but like I just noticed in this last week, I'm like, whoa, that house is there was like this it was dilapidated A-frame, but still on 7 acres for 79,000. And the location of it, I was like, wow, that 79,000 is pretty fair price, even for a dilapidated house. So those 7 acres is probably worth a good 40 or 50 of that, easy. But anyways, then I saw this other house that was like 180 and like, "Oh, this breaks my heart now. Here we go with the foreclosures because life's so hard on everybody." It everything goes up because people want to make more money to pay for things, so companies give raises and it gets passed down the line of manufacturers, cost of product, etc. Yes. One big reason is the not every company, but the people at the very top making like hundreds of millions and like making significantly more than they used to. Mr. Carey, it is not illegal stop to get my ID. My wife not listening gave them our insurance, and I am arguing with my wife, telling her he had no legal right to pull me over, and the deputy agreed, but she still wanted. Oh, I never stop at train tracks. So Rooker said, I told the sheriff he is a young deputy. Yeah, we are years later friends with the deputy, Mr. Carey said. That's nice. Yeah, I've had good interactions. Like, I know there's like some corruption in Kentucky with some police, like, but I've had good interactions around here because for some silly reason I didn't know how to turn my headlights on. And it's like the fog lights or something comes on that makes you feel like the lights are there were lights that were on, but like I have to flip it one more to like get the lights to fully come on. Earthbrain said, I saw a train hit a car when I was a kid. Now I always stop and check tracks. Oh, that's so scary, Earthbrain. Ugh, Yoder, you would move to my property and play with my chickens? John Henry, I agree. I just spent the last 4 months living in Tennessee and loved it, but had to move back to Dallas due to my house not selling. It's an all interest rate driven. Oh, yes. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope that if you want to end up back in Tennessee, you get back there sooner than later. Tennessee is beautiful. Mr. Carey, Anna, great job hiring that part of your bottom. What? Mr. Carey, I'm very good friends with Mr. Brown. Anna, hiding, not hiring, Mr. Carey said. Jesus, the rooker, I'm sure if no one else does either, they can help it. John Henry, interest rates will go down when the Fed sees a plan to reduce our national debt, right? And I've also heard, do you agree with this, John Henry? Like, people, I don't know this, I'm not an expert, but people I follow that are like interested in the economy, they say for them to lower the interest rate, there'd have to be a lot of job loss. Do you have any input on that? And foreclosures, right? One or the other or both. Homer, last I was in Kentucky, we were passing through and stopped in Bowling Green. Oh, Bowling Green is great. I love Bowling Green. I don't like the traffic of any big city. It's the third largest city in Kentucky, but it's a great place because it's like a big city, but it's not, you know? Do you agree with me, Homer? It's like a small town blown up on steroids. Excuse me. And then we find out Mr. Carey is Aaron or Henson. Oh yeah, Anna, your AI your FBI. Your AI FBI. Mr. Kerry, my wife may know Brown. I don't know. Sheriff Weddle isn't running for sheriff next election. It will be Grider. Dory, you're still here. I personally know two people who were killed by trains, so I stop at train tracks. Oh, I'm sorry, Dory. Yeah, so it was the stop sign that, like, it was before the tracks, and it's like, you slow down very, very open. You could see, and there's definitely, and I know you can't always count on the oh my gosh, trust me, where I'm from in Indiana, there's so many trains. It's crazy. And the last few years they started stopping in the middle of the tracks. They never did that growing up. And it was like something Trump did in his first administration. Now the trains are like stopping and then traffic just stops for 15 minutes. It's crazy. But anyways, I'm sorry guys. Corvette Museum, seen all the cars after they fell in the sinkhole. Oh, Homer, yes, that's crazy. John Henry said yes, and it's a bond-driven market. Thank you for answering that question. I'm glad that you confirmed that. Somebody who, well, like I was saying, they're not just people who are into economy. I follow some actual economists. Yoder, when I came down, I got the wedding Sunny Valley, then going to spend the day with Mike Brown in the morgue to see what he does. You've got so much to do. You need to meet me too. Jesus, guys, the national debt is just the untaxed money from the economy. When you pay down the national debt, you remove money from the economy. That's why people are struggling paying down national debt. Yeah, and I was explaining to my son and his friend, like, why people are concerned about the birth rate, and like I am low key concerned too, but it's kind of like what can you do, like what can you, I don't blame, I would never encourage anybody to have babies right now. Like, I mean, maybe if I was sitting across the table from a freaking millionaire and his wife, but like, you know what I mean, like anybody in my personal life, I'm like, oh yeah, just go for it. With everything going on, and there's like so many scary things are happening to women now with the laws. I saw this story and it's like, granted, this could be sensationalism because there's been some, like, pro-life, like, there's been some stuff that I found that, I actually almost made a video on this story that was like, "This is not adding up." They're trying to take these laws and, like, but there are definitely some horror stories. Like, it's a scary time for a woman to get pregnant is what I'm saying. It's a scary time to worry about miscarrying and being in the hospital bleeding out and doctors not helping you because they don't know about the law. Like, I don't think that should have ever happened, and it's, like, part of, how evil this world is. Like, shouldn't people have clear, defined parameters of, like, what is what when it comes to that? I'm glad you're still awake, Dorian. Mr. Carey said I was medically excused from jury duty in Casey County a few weeks ago. Oh, good for you, Carey. Took the scenic route to Iowa that year, Homer said. Oh, I've never been over there. I want to go to all the 48 contiguous states. I love that word, contiguous. Hi, Saeed. Fendi, have you ever been to Northern California, like really far up in Northern Cali, like near the redwoods? No, I would love to go. I haven't been farther up than like LA. We lived a half an hour from the border in California, but it would be, I would love to see that. It seems like California has it all, like literally, right? Like everything from beaches and like snowy mountains and desert. What other state can you say that about? And if I had a crap ton of money, like if I won the Powerball, I probably would want a home in California, and it probably would be more north. I've never been to San Francisco. Hey Zeus, let's increase the child tax credit to like 5K per child for 3 kids and shrink it to like 2.5 after the third. That should help with kids and family. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. Like it should help, but it's also like, oh, think about the kind of people you're incentivizing. If you're not going to have a child, but 5,000 per year makes you want to have that child, I don't know if you should be having that child. You know what I mean? If that's like the make or break, that's just how I feel about it personally. Hi, Erica. How are you? You live in San Francisco, P World Mob. Do you like it? One of my friends lived there for 9 years, and, I don't know how much he misses it. Elmer, dude, that's where the other half is from. Lots of corn. We live in Pennsylvania currently. Oh, yeah, Indiana's like that with the corn. It's just corn everywhere. And here it's refreshing to see a few other cash crops. You'll see tobacco every once in a while, and you'll even see hemp. But yeah, you don't see as much soy as in Indiana. I think there is some soy here. Lots of grain, wheat. Eric, her name is Lydia, Mr. Carey said. Mr. Carey. Well, guys, I am pretty sleepy. I'm glad we got through this book. We read the whole book in a week, and let's try to do the same thing with the second book, She. And yeah, I think it's helping me. All you can do, you can't change other people, but you can try to understand them. I hope you have a great night, John Henry. Thanks for coming in and talking. Fendi said, I lived in Northern California for 13 months. It was something else, but it was so far away, so far north that the Oregon state line was 3 hours away. Oh, wow. On a side note, I love your platform. Stay strong. Oh, John Henry, that means so much to me. Thank you. There are lots of Amish there, Homer. The most Amish state is Pennsylvania, right? That has the largest Amish population. Well, Mr. Carey, hope you have a good night, and I hope you sleep good. Anna, if you're still in here, I hope you have a good night, and I hope you sleep good. Hey, Zeus, I hope you sleep good. Everybody else, Homer, dude, I hope you sleep. I just want everybody to sleep good tonight. Oh, okay. I'm gonna end it on this. I took this new kind of melatonin that said it was. I told you about it, Anna. It's like time release, and I, like, was up peeing all night last night. I was like, "What?" Okay, it had to be an ingredient in that, and I looked it up, and it was hypromellos. Hypromellos. I've never heard about this before. So I Google it, and it's like, first of all, eye drops come up that say hypromellos on it. I'm like, "What?" And it's like a polymer. Well, polymer. It's freaking plastic. They're putting plastic in our supplements now. It's it's considered safe. You still can't tell me if my fucking marshmallow plants are safe or not, though, even though you say it's been used for centuries. They've been used for 2,000 years for this, that, and the other, but we don't know if they're safe yet. Here's this polysaccharide polymer shit to put in your stomach. Okay, so that's what makes it a time release gummy, in my opinion. It has to be, because I was wondering that, and I was telling Anna about it earlier today. I'm like, yeah, it's a time release gummy. Isn't that funny? That's weird. I've never in my life seen that. So anybody that sees that, like, I should make a shorts about that. Hypro mellows. Weird. I'm so tired of seeing, like, we don't need any new. Like, can we just work with what we have? Especially like the things that have already been thoroughly tested for safety. You don't know. There's so many chemicals that have been approved for use and not thoroughly tested. It's insane. And anyways, so yeah, stay away from hyperemelis. Love you guys. Yeah, it was getting up to pee every few minutes was horrible.